Hey gang, welcome back to the Crossroad Off-Road Podcast. I have a returning guest once again. His name is Scott, and he is our CJ rebuilder. He's rebuilt many CJs over the years, and he sent me some pictures of a vehicle he just got done with. And I said, you know what, I got to have you on because this thing is beautiful. So, hey Scott, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
So tell us a bit about the vehicle. Kind of what's the bones of the vehicle? Where did it start, and how did you find it?
It started off with a friend of mine sending me a listing of a 84 CJ7. And from there, called the guy, went out and looked at it, and turned out to be a lot cleaner than anticipated for being a Jeep that was in Minnesota.
So it's a Minnesota Jeep, huh?
It's actually an Arizona Jeep, but I found it in Minnesota. It's been up here for about 5 or 6 years. The original owner had passed away, and his son had obviously inherited from him, and really didn't have the passion or the drive for the Jeeps like us. So, and that's how we ended up with it.
So tell us a bit more about I know you said something about the motor. You have a little bit different motor to it. So it's not 100% original.
Nope, it's not 100% original. It's been repainted, redecaled. The motor has been replaced at one point. You can tell it's blue instead of black, and it's got a metal valve cover instead of a plastic one, which is an indication of an earlier model CJ, earlier year it was out of. I believe it was like 81 and older, 82 and older. So
it has the 4.2 258 inline six.
Yep.
With the looks like is it a 5-speed? Yeah, it's a 5-speed.
Yep. T5 transmission.
Okay.
So
I did not know that age of the vehicle had the 5-speed. I always thought they had 4 speeds.
A lot of them did, but it, demand for overdrive was out there. So
awesome. So what kind of shape was it in? I'm looking at the pictures you sent me.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of rust in the floorboards. Did it have carpet in there when you got it?
No, it didn't have any carpet. Just had the rubber floor mats. And when we had got it, it actually sat outside of a shop for about a year. And with the water and the rain getting in between the windshield frame and down to the floorboards, it started the early surface rust. Spent all those years out in Arizona, and all the sand and stuff wore the paint off, and it had nice clean floors, but then with moisture sits on them, and the floor or the floor mats hold the water in between the floorboards and the floor mats. It just tends to start to rust. Luckily, we caught it real early. It was nothing more than a light wire wheel, some primer, and just touched them up from there. And they turned out real solid. And I'll show you pictures of those when we go through the Jeep here too. So.
And what was the final? What'd you do for the final floor product too? Did you kind of rhino line it, or did you kind of leave it metal?
When it comes to these old CJs, if they've got floors left and they're original, the best thing to do is just paint them, put them back to the original color. I mean, you can protect them and put rhino lining and stuff on, but to the true collector, it's really frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did it have that winch on it when you got it? Is that the?
Yeah, believe it or not, it was on there when I bought it. It's an old setup Arizona Trail Jeep, and it had the patina to prove it. It had little bumps and bruises, and you could see where they flexed the rear end a little too far and curled the fender in a little bit, and backed into something to put a little dent in the corner. But it's got 410 gears, locking diffs. That's one of the things I found out after the fact. Is due to the fact that it was his son who owned it and never built it. He didn't have much information of what had been done. So it was a real big question mark when I first got it, as far as what was there, what was good, and after going through it, it turned out to be a lot better than we thought. So
does it have like Detroits in it, or what kind of lockers does it have?
It's got a True Track in the rear, and then in the front, it's got a kind of rock crawler one. It's just a locking one. It's a Spicer one. I'm sorry. Okay. Spicer carrier, locking carrier. It's not a high grade locking differential by any means, but it's better than nothing. So.
So let's get back to when you originally got it. You said the paint. I know I'm looking at the pictures while we're talking here. That kind of helps me to ask you questions. But it had some sun fade to it, and Arizona is has a lot of sun there. So, but not too bad. I mean, didn't look too bad to start. Did you have to get down pretty deep into that paint job to kind of get that back out?
Not at all. Actually, we did repaint the whole exterior of the Jeep, and only because to match up that color was near impossible. You can give them the paint codes, but unfortunately, throughout the years, the formulas have changed and the products have gotten better. And to try and match up 30-year paint was just next to impossible. So we ended up repainting the whole Jeep. The hood had quite a bit of fade. Unfortunately, too, it looked like somebody may have climbed up there and took some photos. So it had the old pop can effect. Every time you opened it, it'd pop in and out. And I believe in your last episode, I said I was looking for a hood, and I actually ended up robbing the hood from my scrambler just to keep this project rolling. So.
Oh no.
No, that's all right. I mean, like I said, there's still, hopefully there's still a few hoods left out there. But yeah, it was fun to build this one. It was just put it back to a little more of its original look. It's kind of a true, I don't want to say time capsule, but it was definitely a time capsule for that era of the look. So
I'm looking at the dash and everything. Did you have to paint the whole dash then too?
I did. Actually, I replaced the whole dash panel. The one that was in there, they cut the hole for the radio, put a CD player, and they did kind of a poor job. They also had mounted a lockable storage box, which is probably a nice thing to have if you're trying to protect your valuables and your items. But for me, it kind of looked tacky, and I was trying to do a nice restoration. So, but as far as practicality,
that's the armrest. That's the armrest one you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about the glove box. There's a lock box in the glove box there. So I had to find a new glove box door or another one that was OE to try and match that up, because to put that in, I had to get rid of all of that. So that was,
I'm looking at the radio here. Is that an 8-track player?
The one that's in no, it's just like an old Alpine CD player. It's early 90s. It's an early 90s trail build.
Oh, the one that's in there now, is that an 8-track?
Oh, we're talking about, I thought we were talking about previous. So no, the one that's in there now is actually, it's a retro sound radio. So basically retro tunes that take older radio. They get the older classic look of the radio, but they make it so you can have auxiliary, iPod, and make it have all the Bluetooth technology and stuff that modern stuff would have today. So
yeah, it looks like you put some nice speakers in there, some kickers then too.
Yeah, I did kicker speakers all around. I would say, as far as the system goes, bang for the buck, kicker was pretty impressive. I've never ran them before. I usually do like an Infinity or something along those lines. But I'm pretty impressed with the kicker speakers. They sound really good in here.
Good.
And as far as like the radio, the knobs that came with it, I wasn't too happy with. So there's certain things on here that you wouldn't normally be able to do, but I basically took the heater cable pulls from another set of cables that were broken and made them to match the radio dials. So these are the original ones that were on here. The knobs that were on here originally, black knob, pop the emblems, and they were just able to work. So that's the little picky things that I end up, that catch my eye that would actually bother me. So if it doesn't match the dash or the other knobs, it just, looks off. So
you cut out just a tiny bit there, Scott. But so what he did is he took some of the old dials and he popped the little stickers off and put them on the right button, so it just looked better. I don't know if that came through or not, but it's no big deal.
If it didn't.
Yeah, every now and again, the power of COVID will compel us here, but we have to kind of make do with what we can with signals and sound. But it looks wonderful. The whole thing back and forth. I'm just looking at the dash pad that I know cracks on these CJs. All in all, it's pretty slick. Any other surprises with the Jeep that you can share with us?
I think the biggest surprise was trying to get parts for it with the COVID-19. Used parts was a challenge because you're trying to socially distance. you're doing with cash and stuff. New parts were also just as tough because manufacturers were shut down, and it took 3 times longer to get things than it normally would. So I would say that was a surprise and a bit of a challenge to work through with the COVID-19 and trying to get this accomplished. And I think it could have got done a little quicker if it had, if that wasn't in play, obviously. So
Yeah, because I think when I first met you, Scott's the guy I bought my front locker from because he had it spare sitting around. I think I came over in November, December. I can't remember when it was, but it was middle of my kid's basketball season.
Yeah, it was.
That seems like 6 years ago.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, so I seen this Jeep in person a long time ago in your garage when I came over. But the paint job looks great. And one thing I want to say, I mentioned before, is the decals. And I put some stickers on my Jeep, and I will say it took me. My buddy Wade was teasing me because he was like, "Oh, just slap it on there, it'll be fine." And I'm like, "Well, I wanted to get it look decent when I put these letterings on my Jeep. I want it to look good." But you did for people who don't know, you can follow Scott online here, but I'll probably post a couple pictures on my thing. But he has a Renegade package and has a huge Renegade, the 4 or 5 inch Renegade on the hood there, and then the big billboard stripes along the side. Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler love to do their big stickers back in this era. So how hard was that to get straight? I know you've done it before, but kind of fill me in that process.
So I actually cheated that one and kind of spread the wealth. I had a friend of mine, he's got a friend that owns a vinyl company, and he actually put the decals on for me, but I also had him do some other stuff. So when I'd ordered the decals, you can get them in black or white as far as the Jeep emblem right here. So, so I ended up having him color match the Jeep to the decal. So that was one of the things I did that it didn't come with. The other thing I had Rob do was, I'm going to try and get you back in here, but if you look on the dash, you'll see a pinstripe that goes all the way around it.
Oh yeah, I saw that
it's
earlier.
It's tough to see because of the color and stuff kind of clashes a little bit, but that was a Laredo option. When you bought a CJ7 and you got a Laredo package, it came with that pinstripe around the dash. You also got the clock and then attack as well. But the Renegade, you could get a clock and attack, but it was a special order only. So that was, if you went in 1984, you'd have to actually sit down, fill out, and say, "I want the clock and tack." Otherwise, it never came on there. But I had Rob create that decal, and it just really sets the dash off. Even though it's not a Laredo, I just think it really adds a lot more flair to the Jeep.
So did it come with full doors or half doors or soft?
So yeah. So originally when I bought this Jeep, it came with a hard top and hard doors, but they were heavily faded. The hard top had some cracks and stuff. I ended up selling that, running a top full soft doors that is actually original equipment Jeep, Whitco. So it's actual OEM CJ7 factory top and doors for this and hardware, which is all the snaps that run down the side. So it's an OEM top for this Jeep, which is pretty cool, pretty rare. So
is it new old stock or recreated? Or?
It's used, but it's in good shape. So driver quality, we would call that.
Yeah. I mean, is this a driver, or you think this is a driver side of the Jeep or show quality? Where are you at with this kind of when you're done with it?
It's the middle of the road. It's the guy that wants the best of both worlds. Is it perfect? No. I mean, you'd have to spend $40,000 to get, that kind of quality of restoration. But I would say it's a nice, clean, fresh driver. It's completely gone through, fresh paint decals. It's something that if you do end up putting a scratch in the paint, it's not perfect to begin with. It was definitely a budget paint job, but paint is expensive.
Hey, from 10 feet, she's a looker.
Right. And you know what? Honestly, when I first got it back, I was like, once you start putting all the parts back on, the fender flares, the lights, the decals, all of that stuff disappears pretty quick. So
And what's it run on for tires? Is those 33s, 35s?
Yep. So they're 33 by 1050 15. So I like them a little on the narrower side. They fit the wheel wells a little better. I'll try and get you a little better view. You kind of see they fit the wheel well a little better. They don't hang past out the fender flares very far. It's just kind of my look. A lot of people like the wider, the 32 by 1150s is probably the more common size for CJs, or 31 by 1050. But I just think it gives it a great stance. I mean, it's not too tall, not too short. They just fit the wheel wells, very nicely. It does have a 2.5-inch lift with a shackle lift. One of the things they did do is run a longer shackle here in the rear, and that was because before, when they'd flex the Jeep, they would actually leave crease marks where it grabbed the wheel well right here. So in the front, it's a little shorter, but yeah, I mean, it should handle most light off-roading. Anything hardcore, obviously you'd want to go with coils. I mean, leaf springs are, it's too, there's not enough of these left to really go, destroy them left on the, on the trails, but you can still light trail ride and enjoy it. So
yeah, I know another guy I had on a few times. He has Brad with his CJ7, but it's a trail only rig, so it's got no straight panels left, so it's going to be a trail rig for the rest of its existence. But this one, you can do some light off-roading. It's definitely a looker too, so it's really nice. So where's it go now? Because I know where it's going, but tell me kind of story of who picked it up from you.
So my cousin had been him and his wife have been looking for a Jeep for quite a while. And I'd actually showed him a picture of this Jeep before I'd restored it and said, well, I've got this one. And if you're interested in a Jeep, it was definitely a lot cheaper back then, but they like nice things. And I, over the winter, just decided that winters get long, and I decided to redo this one. In the spring, I said, hey, I got this one. It turned out a lot nicer than I anticipated it to, and they came over and said, we'll take it. So plus blue's his favorite color, so it was pretty easy sell.
Pretty easy sell, yeah. It was really funny in talking to you, Scott. Like, I watch a lot of the Collins Brothers Jeeps. I know I talked to you about this when I was at your house. I watch a lot of Dennis Collins, and their rigs are the ones that are 100% perfect. And you talk about stuff, it seems like I'm talking to Dennis Collins, because like you're talking about the shackle here does this, and then they didn't have this in this year. You know a lot about Jeeps, and then of this era especially. That's why I like having you on, because it's beyond me. Like, I know almost everything there is to know about the TJ, but that's as far back as my knowledge will go, because I own a TJ, so I sit there and obsess about it. But what's next for you? I know you have something fun coming up. What are you building?
So I've got an 85 Scrambler on deck. That's going to be the next build. And I'll definitely go overboard with that one. I'd like to do an AMC 401, which is the biggest V8 that AMC made back then. With a 6-speed manual transmission, which out of a Rubicon. So we'll see. I don't know. Some people will scowl at it, and it's something I don't think's been done. And the real difference is I want to be able to bang through the gears. So.
And what year Rubicon transmission you gonna grab?
So I got one out of an 05, 06, out of a TJ-LJ. It's the same bolt pattern, should bolt right up to the 401. So.
Okay. That's cool. I'm excited to see how it comes out for you.
I'm pretty excited to get that one rolling. I've got E-lockers front and rear. It's got the Dana 44 out of an 86 CJ7, which is 1 year only and late 86 only. I mean, it's very rare to stumble across them. So it'll be exciting to get rolling on that one. And that's kind of, I'd like to keep every Jeep I build, but obviously, it takes money to keep the ball rolling. So gotta cut them loose to keep building them more.
Yeah, that one is it's a 1984 CJ7 with the inline 6. It's a beaut. So you guys listening right now, I get the option of watching. He's walking around the Jeep the whole time, making sure I can see it the whole time, so we have a lot to talk about. So it's kind of fun to take a peek. I like looking at all.
Show you.
So it's real fun for me.
One of the cool things about this Jeep too is this is actually a new old stock AMC badge for this thing, and you can tell because up on the ones. So, and they're like, the aftermarket one's fine, but I'm very picky, and I think it just adds a lot, you know.
So that's a new old stock.
So it's a little, and then
yeah,
correct, yep.
yeah.
This is kind of cool too. Normally, when you put fuel in these, obviously the gasoline kind of erodes all the paint. So I spent about an hour hand painting this back on there, and wiping it off and starting over, and wiping it off and starting it over until it was perfect. So,
so what he's explaining to me right now is there's a where it says unleaded fuel only right underneath the gas cap on the CJs. It is on the trim, and so that's what he's talking about right there. He's pointing at it, but that's a really nice job there of getting that right.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if you can see it, or there you go.
Oh, that looks perfect.
But you know, those are the little things that, you know, I think really bring out the Jeep, is those little details that normally people wouldn't touch. They just paint the exterior. They wouldn't normally paint the dash. They'd tape it off here and just paint the exterior. So you see a lot of them that'll be painted red on the outside, and they'll have a whole white paint scheme on the inside because they just didn't like white. So
yeah.
But the difference was taking the time to actually pull the glass out. And that's one thing we did. We pulled the glass out. We completely disassembled as much as possible, took the hood off, so that everything was kind of painted in pieces and then put back together. We didn't pull the tub off. It would have been quite a bit of work from there. And if I had, I would have probably had a lot more money and time into it. But it's a pretty good restoration for what it is. It's a budget, build for sure. So
yeah, the secret of it all is starting with an Arizona Jeep.
That is, that's probably the key to any build, as far as, any old CJ build. I would recommend a clean body and frame over good running driveline. You can fix a driveline pretty easily. Parts are very easy to come by, but trying to find a tub that's rust free without holes in it is very tough. Fenders, and obviously I'm struggling to still find a hood. I had to use the one off my Scrambler, so they're drying up fast. And stuff that you could get for $1,500 to $2,000 is now $5,000, and we were just talking the other day about the prices and how the 4x4 market, the vintage 4x4 SUV market is just incredible and just hot right now. Like the K5 Blazers and the Broncos are getting $100,000 for those. It's just, and even old Scramblers and CJs are getting $20,000-$30,000 for that are original paint, that are really nice shape. So it is really exploded in the last couple of years. So
yeah, well, there's always some guy in Montana who has something sitting in his garage since 1985 that goes for $85,000. That just happened. A guy that Dennis Collins pulled a 84 what do you call that thing, K5 Blazer out and fixed it up and did some things with it, sold it for $84,000 just today.
Okay.
So it's That's crazy what people will buy, but it's fine. I mean, for me, if I'm gonna spend $85,000, it's gonna be something a little different, like a house. But
yeah,
but I like.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but Scott, once again, you did a great job in this Jeep.
Thank you.
CJs are always nice to look at. I think the last 3 episodes I had a CJ2A on and an LJ, and then now a CJ7.
Is there any else you want me to show them? I can show you the floors that I did. We talked about those earlier.
Oh, those are a beaut.
Here's the floors. They turned out pretty well. They're a little dirty, but I don't know if you can kind of see them, but
they are great.
It's easy to start out with clean stuff, ladies and gentlemen. If you're gonna build a Jeep, it's just spend the money up front, get something decent. It's gonna make your build go way quicker, and it's gonna be more enjoyable and so on. It's gonna be worth a lot more when it's done. So you're gonna take a lot of the frustrations of hunting down parts and cutting out panels and trying to find frames, if you can just avoid getting rusty Jeeps. So it's well worth the extra couple of grand. It's going to save you probably $3,000 or $4,000 on the body work end of it. So just start with something
clean. Yeah.
So
well, great job, Scott, and thanks
awesome.
Again for being on. It's time for dinner for you. I know that.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I know it's late dinner, but
well, thanks again, Scott. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitch.
Bye.
Bye.